and tell us a little bit about how you founded Everviolet, and if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit of your journey.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to meet you finally in person,
Yeah.
or IG in person. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2012. Um, Thankfully, I was one of the lucky ones, though. What they thought was going to be an invasive diagnosis turned out to be early stage, which meant that I needed extensive surgery, but I didn't need any further treatment after that, which is hugely fortuitous.
Absolutely.
So but as I said, it was pretty extensive. So I underwent a bilateral mastectomy followed by reconstruction. And I would say I navigated those surgeries, as well as could be expected. But then all of a sudden, getting dressed in the morning became one of the biggest problems. And it was everything from ongoing pain and discomfort around the incision sites to what I later learned was nerve damage to simply wanting to have discretion when I was out and about. I was really excited to get back into my fitness routine and build my strength back. And I felt like I couldn't even go to a yoga class or a Pilates class because everything that I wore I was sort of revealed, and I wanted to maintain my privacy. So I suffered in silence for a while, and then I started speaking with other women who had been through similar surgeries and treatment. And I found not only was the issue universal with people who were newly diagnosed, but it was also universal for people who were 10, 20, 30-year survivors who were, going to stores and buying their favorite bra, but then pulling the wire out so it wouldn't cause pain, or
Right.
cutting into the fabric so it would avoid sensitive areas. And that's when I realized how far beyond clothing this issue went, that not being able to start each day free of pain or discomfort or the reminder of what we had been through, it kept us feeling more like patients and less like people. So it was
Absolutely.
with that realization that I decided to pay my good prognosis forward and solve the problem for other women. And so Everviolet's mission is to help women reclaim a sense of self and femininity, feel confident and beautiful in their own skin, in the face of change. So that's our founder story.
Well, for Journelle, it was very important for me to introduce a mastectomy category. Being a dermatologist, I get privy to all of those things that you were talking about, dealing with the incisions, dealing with questions about the nerve damage,
Yeah.
um, through chemo and radiation. I mean, the biggest problem is, basically chemo and radiation, what its job is to do, to go after those rapidly dividing cells.
Right.
And unfortunately, skin is one of the most rapidly dividing cells. So a skin cell goes through a 28-day cycle. So unfortunately, I see a lot of women just suffering from their skin is just macerated and
Wow.
eroded. So, coming up with the solution and the incision cuts and everything. So that's what it was very important. But the main thing is like femininity. There's a
Yes.
big loss of femininity, and a lot of women crying in my chair about that. And that was the really, really tough part for me, because it's already a hard journey, and why should we lose our femininity along the way? And so I'd love for you to talk about kind of the offerings that you have in your category, what kind of products that you've worked on and solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I designed the collection to literally escort a woman through the whole journey. So we have pieces that are pieces you can wake up in, like a camisole that has drain pockets, so you can manage the drains more easily after surgery. Um, and we have bras that close in the front when arm mobility is limited. A lot of our pieces you can step into for that reason as well, because it's so hard to lift your arms up. You're not allowed to lift your arms up after these types of surgeries, not to mention the pain is so significant. Um, and then so we move into sort of more of a recovery category where we have these bralettes that they're all pocketed if you want to use a prosthetic or you feel like you need a pad for discretion. The pieces help prevent lymphedema, which is a lifetime issue for anyone, as you know, who's gone through surgeries like this. And then we get into our more fashion collection, which has lace and beautiful feminine adornments. And, I kind of, when I designed the collection, I thought it would be a linear thing that people would go from this bra to this bra to this bra. But the truth is it really just depends on one's personal preference. So you really can wear anything at any time. We also have matching panties, and we're developing some new panties for other conditions that women suffer from. Um, and then we have beautiful lounge pieces that really just make the recovery a little bit more tolerable. We focus a lot on clean fabrics and ultra soft luxe fabrics for a couple of reasons. One, we really want women to feel embraced. I really said I want the collection to feel like a big hug. So when you have a beautiful soft fabric against your skin, it is certainly more nurturing than not. But we also focus quite a bit on sustainability and literally spent a year sourcing the jersey that we use in our garments because we wanted it to be certified sustainable from the mill level, meaning, there would be no chemicals put into the fabrics. And we wanted the jersey to really enable women's skin to breathe. So it's naturally antimicrobial, it's breathable, and it's naturally cooling as well. As you know, many of us get thrown into early menopause, and so that's something that I keep in mind a lot too, because it's not just the breast area that's gone through these changes, it's really a system-wide situation that we need to try and accommodate.
And what you pointed out is actually, I want to reiterate that a lot of people don't realize the loss of estrogen is a big deal on the skin. It causes a lot of laxity and it breaks the skin down even more. So everything that you spoke about, antimicrobial, no chemicals, so important when the skin starts to break apart, because things that were never a problem for you when the skin integrity is there, all of a sudden becomes a problem for you. And on top of everything, they're getting contact dermatitis and all these allergic type dermatitises. So everything that you said is amazing, and I'd love to hear it all. And as a dermatologist, this is exactly what is our dream for our patients, going through this, in addition to people going through chemo and radiation. So
Yeah.
just the loss of estrogen alone can cause a breakdown of the skin. So super, super important stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would love to know from you sort of what other things that you see in your practice, because what's been happening since our launch is we have a lot of people coming forward who are not breast cancer survivors, but
Yes.
who have other conditions, whether it's skin allergies or they have had other types of surgery or have arm mobility issues for other reasons. And so what we're finding is that our pieces really extend far beyond women with breast cancer, but really women who are facing body changes in general. And I would just love to know kind of what you see and what you experience in your practice.
Yeah, 100%. What you were saying about the lower garments. So one of the main things that I deal with are cysts. Women are working out a lot. We're Pelotoning, we're on the bike, we're doing all these things. And unfortunately, that takes a number on our groin area. And if you don't have the right underwear and the right undergarment, that's right into the area that we don't need it to cut into. So unfortunately, I do remove surgically a lot of cysts in that area. And it's just a really horrible thing for women to go through. And it's very painful. Here in New York, we walk around everywhere. So people that are walking around a lot need to have those special undergarments. So I find myself counseling patients a lot on undergarments. And then also in the bra area, there's certain underwires that push up against the clavicle. People are getting traumatic lipomas. And lipomas are these fat tumors, and they can develop from trauma. So, I'm having to surgically remove that. In addition to cysts, you've got really bad fungal infections that are happening, bacterial infections, which goes back to what you were saying about the antimicrobial fabric. Antifungal fabrics would be great.
Okay. Okay, there you are.
Sorry, we had a call coming in. I apologize.
No worries.
Thing is like getting rid of the synthetic fabrics and the elastics and everything like that, because when the skin's broken down, it really cannot handle it. So
Yeah, and that's a really important point because I think there's a lot of brands out there kind of claiming sustainability, and not all quote unquote clean fabrics are created equal. And so I always like to let people know to really do their homework and dig into the fabric content, whether you're allergic or not. And then there's the idea too that some of these fabrics that may be clean on the skin, they really harm the environment. So, we try and take a really holistically healthy approach to everything that we do. The fashion industry is one of the most toxic industries on the planet. And so the last thing we want to do, a brand that's so focused on health and wellness, is then harm the planet. So, so aside from the personal, there's also sort of the environmental piece as well.
Well, I have a whole new respect for that because as a dermatologist first who's crossed over into the fashion manufacturing world, I realize now how hard it is actually to be sustainable and how hard to be committed to that. So, companies like yours that are committed to that, it's a whole new respect for it. And we appreciate that we can give that to customers as a retailer.
For sure. Well, I have to let you know that in the very, very beginning, before Everviolet was actually a company and it was just a seedling in my mind, I did a ton of market research, and that involved going and buying lingerie at all my favorite stores. And I used to live in New York City, and so Journelle was my store. And so a lot of the pieces, a lot of the inspiration that I found in designing the collection came from Journelle. So,
well, I think it's a constant process and we have to keep evolving, like with designers like yourself that are trying to do good and put out good. And so it doesn't stop at the door for sure. We have to keep going too. So I really appreciate all the work you're doing and would love to collaborate in the future for future stuff that you're doing and give you my input on the dermatologic side and what further work you can do in the mastectomy world and branch into, all those type of things that we're talking about, cysts, lipomas, and just taking the ease off the female body, the female body, because a lot of things look good on, but they shouldn't necessarily be on for right?
Exactly. That's what I tell people is like, you should be able to wear something for a long time and feel really good about it. And I would love to collaborate with you. A huge part of what I do and a huge part of the joy that I receive in doing it is working with physicians like yourself who really understand these issues firsthand. And while I do understand some aspects of the breast cancer journey, there's certainly a lot that I don't, and certainly not on the dermatological side. So yes to the collab. I would love to do that. And we'll have to connect offline and talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to close things up. I just wanted to say, so this is our second year partnering with the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And for those of you that don't know the Susan G. Komen Foundation, it's one of the biggest foundations helping to fight the fight against breast cancer. And for the next year, 15% of our sales proceeds for Everviolet will go towards supporting the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And for those of you that don't know much about it, please go online and read about it. It's a really, really great thing for all of us women because none of us are necessarily safe from breast cancer, and it's a constant fight for all of us.
For sure. That's awesome.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody that joined in. And we look forward to doing more of these in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.